Welcome to Starting Point Session 5. I don't know if you can believe it, we finally made it here. We're on the last week. Again, just a reminder, you've hopefully had a chance to work through the material privately, personally on your own this past week. Now you're in a group setting where you have a chance to work on this together, where you can discuss. Again, that's really important because we're not doing this alone. We're doing this together. It's important because we know we're doing it in reliance on the Holy Spirit because this is a work that God's up to, but we're also doing it in community because we are the body of Christ working together here. So I hope that's happening for you in this time. And again, if you haven't had a chance, or even at the beginning of this session, you can hit pause if you haven't listened to one of the Missional Living stories that are posted there that are on the app there on the Missional Living tab. Stop and do that because the stories getting more and more, that's just a huge part because all of this is, remember, part of a story. We're all part of God's story. We're all playing pivotal roles in it because we are in places to reach people specifically that only we can reach in the ways that we can reach. So we want to be functioning about that and realize that story is happening all the time. So when you hear about what other people in the church are doing, or you hear about some of what our global partners are doing around the world and how God's working in them, it just reminds us of that, and it helps that feel more and more natural, and again, helps us realize that's who we are. It's not about what we do, it's who we are. This is who we are, our people that live on mission, because this is why we were created, and because we do it out of joy, not out of guilt. One of the things that I've hoped, and our department has hoped through all this process, is that you wouldn't feel guilty week after week. You wouldn't feel like, gosh, I'm not doing what I should be doing. I'm really terrible at this. Things that would be motivated by guilt, because that really comes from a different place. It comes from fear, right? It comes from fear of disappointing God, fear of not measuring up, or fear of looking bad compared to other people, whatever that case might be, fear of not succeeding. But the more powerful motive and the motivation that God gives us and that Jesus modeled, right, is joy. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross. It was about joy for Jesus. He's given us the fruit of the Spirit, right? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, and so on, right? Who we've been created, what the Spirit is doing in us is helping us to live out of freedom, to live out of joy of who we are in Christ. And again, that takes training, right? You can try that, or you can think, no, I got to daily meditate. Another reason why to spend time with God daily is realizing who you are, realizing who He is, even more importantly, but realizing the journey, the story He's called us on, and His incredible mercy and grace. Mercies that are new every morning, grace that is sufficient for each day that He's placed us in. And moving into that, leaning into that with joy. That's the motivation and hope that we have for all of this, and is the goal that we're having here. So as we look at Session 5, as we bring things kind of wrapping up to an end here, let me just again bring us and walk us through what it looks like into this last main area, which is the area of global opportunities. We've had our areas of personal spheres of influence that we needed to move into first, and then from there, the areas of community opportunities, things that are happening around in our community that we hear about, that we know about, because this is where we live. These are the people we live with, we spend time with. And then this third category of ways for us to start living on mission is the area of global opportunities. How are we engaging? How are we taking the Scriptures seriously when they say go? When it says go into all the world? When it says go to the nations, when we're reminded that it's the nations that are gathered one day around the throne of heaven. These reminders, how are we engaging the world? Knowing that in some cases the world has come to us with internationals that might live in the area or people from a different culture, but we have to be still burdened to care and pray about and be engaged with those that are in China, those that are in Russia, those that are in South Africa. Those people have to be on our heart and minds because they're on the heart and mind of God. And again, our desire, again, in our prayer is that He would give us a growing love for the things that He loves. So we start out here at Session 5 doing that. Let's talk about some of the things there. We're on page 20. Some of the opportunities that might be there for you to be a part of. Again, start with prayer, asking God to show you because He is up to a work there. One thing might just be using our Mitchell Road Intercessor. There's a link on that on the end of the newsletter that comes out every week. It's also accessible through the webpage. But that Intercessor has not only areas that you can pray for people in our church, specific things, but it always has a section that has in there something to do with our global partners, how you can be praying for our global partners around the world. It comes directly from them or from their update letters that they send us. So we have some great information there that is usually very, very recent and current, and you can be praying for them. So just committing and praying in that spot. could be a place to begin. You can come across and adopt one of our global partners. We are moving in an area right now where we have a missional living team that we actually have all of our partners divided up into 12 regions, and we have actually liaisons that are working there with them. But you could also personally adopt a particular global partner person or family that you just want to connect with, that you're going to kind of be pen pals with, so to speak, and try to encourage. And maybe you'll go on a trip to see them, or you'll be a part of a short-term mission trip that goes there where they're at. But you can take on a personal relationship with one or two like that. That would be amazing. Other things, you could go through the Perspectives course that's offered here. There's information there about how to connect with Nancy Sturrock, who's helping put those on. Other groups that we're partnering with here locally would be iFace, which is working with international students that are right here in Greenville, or World Relief, which is working with a lot of the refugees and those that are relocating and those that have needs. Many cases there, those are internationals. So those would be some opportunities. If you look on the next page, Mitchell Road short-term mission trips. There's multiple trips are planned for 2024 that you can be a part of, and for subsequent years, we hope to have at least 4 or 5 of those every year that are happening that you can be a part of. We'd love to help you get connected with that. Again, you can go to the webpage and hear about some of those trips. And here's a challenge, a special challenge I had for those that are maybe older in our church that have gone on multiple mission trips, those that are often have most availability and time maybe to do that because you're a season of life. Don't go on another trip unless you're bringing somebody younger with you. Look to mentor. If you're a man, bring a younger man with you. If you're a lady, bring a younger lady with you. Look for somebody younger than you. Then you can impart your heart for missions and do that through the context of relationships with them. They would love it. You would love it. You would both benefit from it in great ways. But we want to be passing on, for those of us that are in the older generation, our love and our heart for God, and sharing the stories of how we've seen God work in the past. We got to pass those stories down to the younger generation so they can be inspired, they can be encouraged, and bring them along with us. So that's one way you can help. There are opportunities that are huge now too. Surge, for example, has an opportunity to be part of a vocational internship where you can go for 2 to 11 months. For some of you who are retired or have extra space and time, you can go for an extended period of time, and it's in the window. You don't have to have a visa for some of these places, and you can be there and come right alongside some of our global partners there. So there are other things that you can do, like some of you could possibly take your actual job, and you might be able to relocate. You could tell your company, ask your company, and your company said, yeah, we need people in Africa doing that. We need people in South America doing that. You could go for a season with your company, keep your same job, have all your moving expenses perhaps even covered there, and be in that country and be able to serve and make connections there while you're continuing to do the same work you're doing now. Or maybe there's a way you can do your work with a new company in those kind of environments. That would be a way for you to get out there or spend a season there. So lots of opportunities there. Summer internships here, short-term mission trip opportunities, or long-term. One of the desires we have in 2024 is that we are hoping and praying and trusting God for 5 units from Mitchell Road, either individuals, couples, or families, 5 that would feel called to long-term missions through the time period of 2024. That's our prayer. That's our hope and objective and goal as a church. So join us on that. Maybe you would be one of those people perhaps, but join with us in praying to see who God might raise up. So lots of opportunities here. And again, these are just some ways you can start here. There are many others you can think of here. Just use this list to help prime the pump about where you might see God calling you and leading you with it. Maybe use one of these. Maybe you have something different. Maybe you're going to hear something in your group discussion time that somebody else shares that you might want to try or be a part of. But where's God calling you to take some steps to start in the area of connecting globally with the idea of caring for what's happening around the world and how we can advance the mission of Jesus Christ? So that's our main sessions there for 5. You have the group discussion time that's coming up here. Again, a reminder there to get those things down and to be thinking about number 5, how we can think about this with a training mindset. If it's a training mindset, for example, I will begin praying weekly for our missionaries using the intercessor. That would be a way to train yourself to do that and use that resource that comes through on the newsletter every week that comes out. for example. But that's a training mindset rather than, gosh, I need to do something. I'm not sure what yet. I'm still thinking about it. Don't keep thinking about it. Put some steps to action that you're going to move on beginning this week. So we want to capture that here. And again, through all of this, you want to be capturing your material and putting it onto that card that you were given at the very beginning of the session. That card is where we're kind of at now, is making sure that gets filled out with 2 or 3 things from personal spheres of influence, starting point steps, 2 or 3 starting point steps in the area of community connection, and 2 or 3 starting steps in the area of global opportunities, so that you have roughly maybe 6 things. 9 things, bad math, there for you to look at and to know, this is what I feel like God's called me to start with. And again, some of it might change, might modify. You might add some, you might take something away and replace it. That's okay. The idea here is just knowing we know where to start out and where we know what the plan is to begin. Take that card tonight before you leave. Get it to your small group leader or get it to them as soon as you can. They're going to get it to us. And again, that just helps us know how we can come alongside and encourage you. Again, for example, if somebody says, I really feel like I need to go on a short-term mission trip this coming year. Well, we're going to get that. We're going to see that. And we're going to reach out to you and go, hey, how can we help? Here are the trips that are coming up already. What do you think? Do those dates work? Would that work? Or you might say, well, I really have a burden to do this such and such. And we can go, that's great. We know somebody else that also has a burden for that country. Why not the 2 of you talk, and we'll talk with you, and let's see, maybe we'll create a whole new short-term mission trip based on your burden and your passion. That would be exciting. I'd love for that to be how we pick trips every year, is that is happening from people in the church that have a growing heart for an area of the world they want to be engaged with or be a part of. So that's how we're going to use the cards, is how we can come alongside and pray for you, how we can encourage you. And we're going to take those cards in a matter of a few weeks, maybe a month or so. We're going to mail that back to you once we've collected it, so you can have it, and so you can receive it in the mail and go, oh yeah, this is what I said. Now, I encourage you to take a picture of it with your phone, or to jot down those 9 things already somewhere else on a piece of paper that you can keep with you now. So you have it currently, but we'll send it back, and it'll serve as just another fresh way to remind you that this is your plan. This is what you're working on. And lastly, let me know, or our staff know, when you have even if there's just, you might think it's a small story, but where you've seen God work and move in your life as you've taken steps to live on mission in any of these areas. We'd love to know about it. We'd love to hear about it. We'd love to capture it if we can on video and let other people be encouraged by it. Sometimes what people feel like are the smaller, most insignificant stories can be the most powerful sometimes, because God works in those moments in all kinds of ways, right? God works when a little kid brings his lunch and says, this is all I've got to eat. God sometimes feeds 5,000 people in those kind of situations. So nothing is too small to see, to hear back, to report back. We'd love to hear what's going on. We're so glad you're part of this journey with us. Our department is here to help you any way that we can. Don't hesitate to reach out to us. One of those last pages, I think, had all the email addresses for our staff. Again, use us as a resource any way we can help you, and let's start living on mission, whatever that looks like for us right now. Let's do that together. And it's going to be exciting, because 2024, our focus for the year as a church is missional living. So it's going to be exciting to see what God does in the next year and a half as we begin to take these steps and do it together for His glory, for His honor. Thanks for being part of the journey. Let's do it together. Let's go.